What is going on, ODSTs? I hope you guys are having a great day, and today we're going to continue with our Art of War series, and we're going to go on to Chapter 7, entitled Maneuvering. And this will kind of generally cover about how to maneuver around the battlefield, not too much. It gets a lot into some very specific situational type things, but I'll kind of teach you guys about kind of how to maneuver around the battlefield. And before we get started, I want to talk about that intro you just saw. It was made for me by a YouTuber called Apex. He did it for free. He's a really cool dude, so I figured I'd give him a shout out in this video. And he makes a bunch of other kind of special effects stuff or intros. So if you want to check out his YouTube channel, you can go ahead. The link will be in the description, and I encourage you guys to do so. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into the maneuvering chapter of the book. We're going to be skipping around a little bit because only very little of it actually applies to maneuvering individual people. Most of it involves maneuvering armies. If you feel like you miss any content, though, you can feel free to go read it by yourself. But this is about all I'll have time to fit in this video. So we'll go into line 3. He says, after that comes tactical maneuvering, than which there is nothing more difficult. The difficulty of tactical maneuvering consists of turning the devious into direct and misfortune into gain. So basically he's saying that, maneuvering is a very difficult skill. It's a skill all in its own. No matter how good you are with a BR, it's hard to outshoot someone if they have a better kind of positioning and maneuvering better than you do, especially in objective game types where slaying matters a little less. So maneuvering can be just as big as learning how to kill people. So it's something you definitely want to learn as you're learning the jumps and things like that. He says, thus, to take along a circuitous route after enticing the enemy out of the way, and those starting after him to contrive to reach the goal before him, shows knowledge of the artifice of deviation. So basically, he says that you want to learn to move people out of the way and take the route that has a little less resistance to it. And it's basically the artifice of deviation, which he introduces here. And basically, deviation is just not taking the regular standard route that everyone will normally take. Basically, learning the artifice of deviation learns to basically calculate yourself. This is more of a thing that you can apply to all parts of your gameplay, but especially kind of maneuvering, which is learn how to figure out exactly how the whole map is going and how the game is flowing, and then adjust yourself accordingly. Don't just kind of go with how you would do it every single game, because what works for one game doesn't always work for another. We're going to jump down to line 12. He says, we cannot enter into alliances until we are acquainted with the designs of our neighbors. And basically this is saying that we can't necessarily take advantage of something until we are familiar with it. And he goes on to elaborate with this, going on to the other line saying, we are not fit to lead an army on the march unless we are familiar with the face of the country, its mountains and forests, its pitfalls and precipices, its marshes and swamps. We shall be unable to turn natural advantage to account unless we make use of local guides. So again, this whole idea of we aren't really able to make full advantage of what we're given unless we're very familiar with what we are working with. So let's say if you're maneuvering around the map, it's really hard to make use of maneuvering around the map unless you're actually familiar with what the map is. You get a new gun in Halo, you want to make sure you're familiar with that gun before you just start kind of wailing out with it just to see what it does. Because that actually happened to me with the bolt shot. I had no idea what the bolt shot was, and I just tried using it. And it was a disaster. I didn't know you were supposed to charge it. But yeah, we'll go ahead and move on to line 16. He says, whether to concentrate or divide your troops must be decided on circumstance. Let your rapidity be that of the wind and compactness that of the forest. So he's saying when you are moving, you want to move fast like the wind, but you also want to move really compact and not really like spread out. Like the forest is kind of compact with trees. You want to make sure that you guys are being really less detected and more efficient and close together when you are moving to kind of keep the whole unit together. He says, in raiding and plundering, be like a fire, its immovability like a mountain. So he says when you're attacking something finally, you know how fire just kind of spreads, there's really no stopping it. So he's saying that you really don't want anyone to be able to stop you when you're plundering something per se. And immovability like the mountain, meaning that when you do fight something, you don't want it to ever really stop you. You don't want someone to kind of corner you in an area and you have to wait for your shield to go up. You want to be able to kind of move just like that, like that, like that, Like if you're going after a flag in CTF, you want to make sure that you are moving extremely efficiently. As soon as you kill someone, you want to get to the objective before they respawn, because that is the ideal situation. So we go on to line 21. He says, ponder and deliberate before you make your move. Which basically is just another idea of the artifice of deviation, basically stating that, you need to make sure you understand what you're doing, you need to think about it, ahead of time, because you can't do the same thing every single game. Maybe you can have the same opening because you're not familiar with how the enemy is going to react and whatnot, but eventually if you do it enough times in the exact same way in your later half of the game, you're not going to be as effective because you have to adjust it to how the enemy plays. Well, he also says directly after that, he says, he will conquer who has learnt the artifice of deviation, such is the art of maneuvering. So he's basically saying that learning to change your plans on the fly is what maneuvering really is. You have to be able to change how you're going to move around the map based on where the enemy is and where you can make advantage of that. So we're going to go on to line 32. We're going to jump a far ways down here. He says, to refrain from intercepting an enemy whose banners are in perfect order, to refrain from attacking an enemy drawn up in calm and confident array, this is the art of studying circumstances. So he says that even when you are maneuvering kind of well, you want to pay attention to how they are moving around the map. You don't necessarily want to let them just kind of be really well prepared for you. You want to catch them while they're off guard, because that will always provide the best way of attacking someone. You know, if someone comes out behind a corner at you and you weren't expecting it, you're way more likely to kill them than if they saw you behind the corner and they had Promethean vision or something. He says, it is a military axiom not to advance uphill against the enemy, nor to oppose him when he comes downhill. So again, this is another thing about talking about studying circumstances. If they have the advantage, you don't want to attack them. And this is what I said about high ground and low ground too. High ground is usually advantageous. But you don't necessarily want to attack people when they're in order. Just let them kind of come to you, lose their advantage, and then attack them when they're kind of weak. Because you don't want to just assault them while they're well prepared for you. He says, do not pursue an enemy who simulates flight, nor do not attack soldiers whose temper is keen. So basically he's saying when people are pretending to run away, when people are kind of luring you in, don't fall for those traps, because that's what you're trying to lure other people to do as well. You want to lure people in and they want to lure in you. So you need to learn how to lure people in well and not fall for their traps whenever it happens to you. Because people will try pretending like, oh, I'm going to run around this corner. Uh-oh, 3 of my friends are right here. You know, that's happened to me on multiple occasions. He says, do not swallow baits offered by the enemy. Do not interfere with an enemy that is returning home. So basically he's saying that, again, don't swallow these baits. Don't fall for tricks that they're going to try playing out for you in order to get advantages to themselves. Because that is ultimately how you get put in these sticky situations. You want to focus on getting them in bad situations by holding out something they want. Like, if they want a sniper, they will come and attack you for that sniper rifle. Just go ahead and wait for them, set up, and then kill them when they come to you. It'll be much more advantageous to you than having to go in right in at them. So when they're baiting you with something, make sure you don't fall for it. Make sure you're getting them off guard as well. And the last 2 lines, it says, when you surround an army, leave an outlet free. Do not press desperate foes too hard. Such is the art of warfare. So he's basically saying that once you have what you want, like a position, don't push people too far. You don't have to kill everyone if it means that you get your objective or something. So if you were going after the flag, you want to make sure that you go ahead and get that flag and then leave. You don't have to kill everyone in the base and camp with the flag. But that's pretty much all I got. Thank you guys for watching. Comment, rate, and subscribe, and have a great day. I'm Perplexality, and this is my YouTube channel. ODST.